Hi everybody, so this is Lynn from Gardening from Square One. So today I'm going to give what is probably going to be the final tour of the Mott tree space. So it's a project we started May, June of this year. Basically, this space was beautiful live oak trees that were already here and essentially a bunch of weeds. So I'm going to go over the progress that we've made thus far because I think I'm done for the season. I think it's going to get colder here now, so December is approaching. Our highs here in Central Texas is going to be in the high 60s, the low 40s. We usually get our first frost. Lately it's been coming somewhere in mid-December. So I think I'm done because I don't really have much on order yet to arrive, although my husband likes to say if the day ends with Y, there's going to be a package on the porch, so we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Okay, so starting here, I'm standing at the entry gate, and all of this stone wall was added. This is infrastructure that we had installed. We used a local landscape company to help, or actually they put in the wall, the rocks, the irrigation infrastructure, etc. However, every plant that was added, I added everything. I made all of the selections. My husband assisted with augering the larger holes. And if you start along the fence line over here, and this is closest to the entrance, I have rocks. It's a mix of about 2.5-inch rocks. And I've added 3 Burford hollies along this wrought iron fence line for privacy. My Bermuda grass, please excuse it, it is horrible, but with all of the construction in this area, the in and out, it kind of destroyed it, so I have to deal with that next year. As you can see, I lined the path that leads to this Mott tree space with boxwoods. There's one I still need to replace. These are all baby gem boxwood. I don't know if they're going to be bulbs or if I'm going to try and let them grow together. Time will tell. What I can tell you about these baby gem boxwood, my experience is here in Central Texas, they do better in part sun or part shade conditions. I've tried to grow them in full sun previously. They don't like it, but they tend to do better and they can handle less water and dry shade here in Central Texas. So this is primarily the boxwood that I use for part sun or part shade conditions, and that is what is going on in this Mott tree space. Now the blue flowering plants you see are salvia. These are mystic spires. I purchased them from local HEB. They were 3-gallon plants for, I think it was somewhere around $14, $15. And I bought 4 of them that I divided into 1-gallon plants. And that's what you'll see all along this space in the interior of the Mott trees. All of the salvia in here, with the exception of the East Friesland, there are all these mystic spire salvias, which is a winner in Central Texas and many other places. I have heard gardeners in California rave about the mystic spires. Now mine don't look so spectacular because, well, unfortunately I did not get around to cutting them back during the summer, and they also went in the ground back in August. So, but they'll be better next year. Okay, so moving along, in between the 2 salvias, looking a lot smaller, is a rock steady chase tree or vitex. I wanted to kind of fill up the space. It will have height of about 10 to 12 feet, but not a lot of width. If I have to move the Mystic Spire Salvia over a foot or two, I have the room to do that, but we'll see what happens as time progresses. Okay, moving into the space, I have a couple of sedge in black pots, and just behind it on the left, the leafy plant, that is a viburnum. Oh gosh, I forget what viburnum that is, but this viburnum over here, it will become about 4 feet wide and 10 feet high. I'll post the name of this viburnum in the comments. It is a proven winner's plant that I purchased, and it's supposed to have beautiful white flowers in the spring, so we'll see what happens with that. Moving along into the space, over to the left, in between the other two salvia, that small plant right there, actually there's a trio and it's just behind it. That is an El Nino Chitalpa. I am growing this in another location in our yard, and boy, it's been a wonderful plant. I'm not sure if it's going to remain right here in this space. I may actually move it to more towards the end and then just put another one of the viburnums in between. So I'll have a trio of viburnums. So one, and then where the Chitalpa El Nino. Yes, El Nino Chitalpa. Yes, there we go. I may have a trio, 1, 2, 3, because over behind the Mystic Spire Salvia, so going all the way back, is a second viburnum. So over behind it, the green leafy plant is the third. And so I may actually prefer to have a trio of those. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see next year. So moving along, the itty bitty plant with the stick behind it is a Beyond Midnight Caryopteris. I just planted that a day or so ago. I purchased it from Home Depot. Boy, I hope it makes it. I'm going to have to protect it this winter, because when I took it out of the pot, it really did not have a lot of development. So it's going to have to be babied. Up in front is a drift of Blue Fortune Agastaki. I love the way the plants move in the wind, and I grow these in another part of my yard in full sun, and I can tell you the bees absolutely adore the flowers on this plant. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 growing in a row. I've thought about adding another. Behind the first Blue Fortune Agastaki with the bamboo attached, that is a white rose. That is another bolero. Bolero is a rose that I've grown in other locations. These plants just arrived about 4 days ago, and I put them in the ground, and so they arrived without any leaves, which is fine. They'll be fine. But the bolero white rose is very fragrant, and it only becomes about 4 feet in height, about 2 to 3 feet in width. So it'll look really nice, nestled kind of throughout this space behind the blue flowers of the Agastaki. Now the plant growing kind of in the middle is the crepe myrtle. That is a purple flowering crepe myrtle, Catawba. Catawba, I believe. Catabwa, something like that. I don't know if it's going to remain. I have a spot in my yard where I'm going to pull up a butterfly bush that I'm not happy with. a large butterfly bush in front of an Arizona cypress, so I'm thinking of moving it to that space before it really settles in and takes off. And I might actually put the El Nino in that spot. We'll see. All of the little flags represent larger plants that I'm going to add. I am contemplating adding more of the viburnum. We'll see how it handles the winter. I have not had the best success with viburnums here. Spring bouquet didn't do really well in my garden, and then I grew Chindo viburnum and lost all of those in the first winter. I was really shocked because there's zone 7 plants and I am zone 8B, but they just didn't make it through the winter. So I'm going to shift over to the right now, and you'll see I uploaded a video of new plants a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, and I had 4 of these Veronica lavender lightsaber plants, and I added 10 more. So straight ahead are the Veronica lavender lightsaber. I have about 14 of them at this point, and if you just showing what they look like, and I'll pop in an image of what they look like just 2 weeks ago, 2 to 3 weeks ago, they are happy. All of them have pushed out new growth. I cannot wait until next spring when all of those beautiful lavender flower spikes will fill up this space behind the boxwood. Now, behind the Veronica lavender lightsaber, those are yin and yang viburnums. They are evergreen. And FYI, if you live in a warmer climate, the Veronica lavender lightsaber, for me, they're semi-evergreen. I grow them in my front planter, and they kept most of their leaves throughout last winter. So I'm hoping that these do the same. The yin and yang viburnums back there will have white flowers during the spring. I'm excited to see that. It's not here yet, but I'm anticipating the beautiful white flowers on those evergreen yin and yang viburnums behind the Veronica lavender lightsaber that has the lavender flowers. Now behind that, the solitary plant behind that is an experiment. All the way back there, shining in the sun, that is a lilac. And we are not supposed to grow these here in Central Texas. However, this one's rated to zone 9, I'm8B, and thus far, it's doing okay. I planted it back in August, so the height of summer, and that would be one of my concerns with the lilacs. I mean, I know they need they need a certain amount of cold chill hours. However, this one is supposed to be a variety that doesn't require as much as many other lilacs, so we'll see what happens. It did not burn up throughout the summer. I do give it a little more water than other plants, however, not that much. So fingers crossed, I hope we have some beautiful pinkish purple blooms on that lavender or lilac plant come spring. The grassy plants in front of you, those are feather false carex. I am a big fan of this plant. I grow it in my front yard. They become a little larger here than what the tags indicate. Mine in the front yard are probably about 4 feet wide at this point, and they are 2-year-old plants. So I think they may need to be divided a little more than I'll be happy with, but oh well. I'll dig them up. My husband typically helps me with that sort of thing, and I'll have gifts to give to friends. Now back there between the two strappy featherfall carex, that is a white wedding hydrangea. That is another plant that is an experiment. We tend to grow oak leaf hydrangeas here. This is not an oak leaf. Now it is a Southern Living Plants hydrangea, and so it's supposed to do a little better here in the south, and time will tell. I shall see. Moving on, there is another Beyond Midnight Caryopteris back there that went into the ground about a month ago. It'll have beautiful bluish purple flowers. And now I'm going to shift back to the left. So the little plant back there in the sun, the little round arb, that's an experiment. That is a tater tot arborvitae. Don't know how well that's going to do here. I do have a Virginian arborvitae, and it seems to be pretty happy, although I have a couple that aren't, but I don't think that's because of my climate, etc. But I do have deer pressure. Typically, only the babies that can slide through the wrought iron fencing end up in my yard, and they haven't seemed to do much destruction. But I do have rabbits. There was one living on the east side of my property. Every time we walked out there, practically every day, it would run out of our yard. So it was back there eating up my roses, so living off of my roses. But we'll see how this arborvitae, this tater tot, does. So the space behind the arb in the rocks, the taller plant, is a fragrant tea olive. It's going to have white flowers. It is supposed to become about 10 feet in height, about 5 or 6 feet in width. So I'm anticipating that it's going to fill up that space. I may need to prune it a little. In front of it, closer to the edging, is East Friesland salvia and then bolero. The East Friesland to the right of the rose bush has some blooms on it right now, so you can see the pretty purple flowers that the East Friesland salvia will have. And so plan and goal is to have these white bolero roses intermixed with the East Friesland salvia. Now, keep in mind, all of these plants went in during the summer here. They're babies. The bolero roses I purchased from Heirloom Roses, and so they were little quart plants. And now they're probably 18 inches in height, but I do expect things from them. I have grown this plant before, and the fragrance is just amazing. So moving around the corner, standing tall with the big stake in it, is another fragrant tea olive. It will have white flowers on it as well. And that one is actually doing better than the first one that I showed you, because this one has always been on drip irrigation, whereas the one that I just showed you a minute or so ago, it was not on drip irrigation. They were purchased at different times. They get pretty much the same treatment, but it shows the difference of being able to water the plant slowly with the drip versus just coming out here with a hose or a jug watering the plant. This one over here is doing much better than the one that I just showed. The small plant towards the front with the browning leaves, that is an oak leaf hydrangea. This is its first year in the ground, so it's still a baby. It's supposed to have gorgeous burgundy leaves. As you can see, the leaves are starting to turn colors already. I have 3 of them. The one in the middle isn't doing as well because there was a watering issue with it. However, moving over to that space, the oak leaf hydrangea on the right of the trio, it's doing a little better than the one in the middle, but the one on the left never had any watering issues. And watering, while I try to focus on plants that don't need a lot of water for the first couple of years, they need water. They have to get established. And unfortunately, they didn't get the water that they needed, but they are alive, so I'm grateful for that. Now in the front are different boxwoods. These are sprinter. If I could only select one boxwood at this point, it would be the Sprinter, because the Sprinter can handle the shade. It can handle full Texas sun. It can handle part sun, part shade. It doesn't bronze out in the winter. So if I could only select one, it would be this one in front of you, that Sprinter boxwood. Moving on, in front of the trees, the trio of trees to the left, that is a pineapple guava, and it is growing in part sun conditions, and it appears to be pretty happy. In front of it is a Veronica. I think it's Wizard of Oz. It's going to have blue flowers. Next to it on the right is a rose bush that I planted. I have no idea what it is. When it blooms, hopefully I'll be able to tell what it is. My guess is it's going to have pink flowers because most of my roses have pink flowers. Behind it, just to the right, is a snowball viburnum. So this is a Chinese snowball viburnum that I hope to have limbed up like a tree at some point. This was a 1-gallon plant that went into the ground a year and a half ago. So just to show you how much it has grown from a 1-gallon plant in a year and a half, I think it's happy where it is. To the right of the rose bush is another Veronica, and then a baby gem boxwood is next to the Veronica. Moving around to the right, these are baby gem, and then I have 2 more of the Veronica. So if I twirl around, you'll see that the Veronica, they're on both sides of this path. Okay, so next to this rose bush, beautiful cupped pink roses it has. There are 2 blue flowering Veronicas flanking it. And then, of course, on the left side, I just showed you I believe they're Wizard of Oz. They're blue Veronicas as well. I'll get the actual variety. I purchased them from Bluestone Perennials. The stake, or what's poking up in the ground, that was a Mystic Spire Salvia that became too heavy. I think an animal or something trampled over it, which was my sign that I needed to cut it back, but it was damaged, and unfortunately it doesn't look like it's coming back. However, I have HEB, so I'll just get another one. So on this corner is actually 4 Mystic Spire Salvia. They don't have flowers right now because I just cut them back about 2 weeks ago. I had to. They were just looking horrible and about to fall over. In the foreground are Supertunias. Some of them are surviving, some are not. I had, I think, 6 of them, but I tried to use the 1/4-inch tubing to keep them watered. I don't think it's working, but what I am thinking of doing is putting Brunnera there and just putting dedicated emitters on the Brunnera. I'm just not sure if there's enough space to actually grow the Brunnera, because the Brunnera will become about 3 feet wide, and you know what the Mystic Spire Salvia will do. It can become 4 feet wide here. So that's a project for spring. Okay, so moving back towards, and now I'm on the right side of the seating area. There's a lot of repetition. So back there in the pot is a Green Mountain boxwood. In the foreground, in front of it, is another Mystic Spire Salvia. So the path to the left that leads into the interior of the rounded Mott of tree space is flanked with the Mystic Spire Salvia. And then to the right of it, those are more East Frieslandia with Bolero roses. So those are court roses behind it. And then the beautiful strappy foliage of the Daniela flax is behind the rose bush. And then over to the right, I have another one of the lilacs. So my lilac experiment, it is the exact same lilac variety. And hopefully it will, I'm not concerned about the winter. I planted this one, oh gosh, about 6 weeks ago. It was still kind of warm, but it wasn't during the summer like the other. I think after the other one did okay, didn't have any issues. When I planted it at the height of our summer, I was less concerned about this one. So moving into the Mott of tree space down the flagstone path, I have seeding. I have Daniela flax, the strappy variegated leaves flanking the space. Behind the bench, actually, and it looks really small right now, nestled between the trees, is a viburnum. And I forget which one this is, but it'll have some type of snowball bush type viburnum, but it is not the Chinese. I'll have to list what it is. It's supposed to be very fragrant, but it's not the Korean either. So gotta look it up. I don't remember which one that is, but hopefully it will grow. I'll limb it up like a tree and it'll be behind the bench. To the left is a rose bush. It is either Blue Girl or, gosh, what's the other one? It's a lavender flowered rose bush, and I will post a picture of that. Next to it is more East Frieslandia salvia, more Daniela flax. Over in the back, I have more roses, different varieties. Some of them are, one of them, the tall one, just shooting straight up, that is a David Austin rose. It is a pink David Austin rose. They're all actually kind of a softer, warmer pink. Over to the right is another lavender rose and East Frieslandia salvia. I'm going to walk through this space at this point and going through where I'm going to add pavers. To the left is another Blue Fortune Agastaki. And to the right is the flax. To the left is that same viburnum that I'm going to have to look up. But there's another, like to limb it up as a tree, another Blue Fortune Agastaki. On the right, I have 3 cherry laurel. I think they're called Noble. I purchased them from Wilson Brothers. And then straight ahead is a fruit landi tea olive. The rose bush in the pot on the left is a pink rose bush, and behind it is a snowball viburnum. Over to the left, behind the wood, the chopped wood, is a busy bee vitex, our chase tree, and I'm going to walk over there because I saw blooms on it, believe it or not. It is November 30th, and I saw blooms on this plant, and I was shocked to see these pretty purple blooms on this plant, but they are there. And so I grow white bolero roses in front of it, and then I have some rosemary. Now down on the ground also blooming is a pink dawn salvia. There's something about that particular pink that I really like. It's not so soft that it just fades and doesn't hold up and make its presence known in our hot Texas sun. However, it's not so bright that it says, look at me, look at me. So it's one of my favorite pinks. I have another one behind me over to the left. It's actually blooming a little more so than the one that I just showed you. The leafy plants in the front are more Mystic Spire salvia that I cut down. And they're doing just fine. And then I'm going to turn around, and there is a Merlot red bud. It is a combination, I believe, of the Eastern red bud and the Texas red bud. It's supposed to have the heat tolerance of the Texas and flowers more similar to the Eastern red bud. I thought this plant was a goner. It was in a pot, and I just left it out there, thought it was dead. And it started to bloom, so I figured, well, I need to find a home for it. So here it is. So now here's a look back at this space from the south. So I'm just going to scan. Everything over here is new. Everything was added, for the most part, over the past 5 months. So I've been very busy, but I think I'm going to take a little break. I think the weather is going to dictate that for me. I just want to say, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you listening. Please consider clicking subscribe. Share this video if you know anyone that gardens in the South. Some of these plants are great for other parts of the country. If anything is beneficial to you, like I said, please share this video, click subscribe, notifications. I definitely appreciate that. And I think I'm going to end this video. I hope you have a great day out in your garden. Bye.